Nuclear energy is a wonder to humankind. America currently provides 20% or slightly above of the total electricity to its citizens only through energy produced this way. And according to the World Nuclear Association, nuclear power generates more than 11% of the world's electricity, and more than 30 countries use more than 430 commercial nuclear reactors that, between all of them, generate more than 370,000 megawatts of power. To put that cipher into comparison, that's more than 33,000 times the amount of energy just America's citizens use in a year.
But what is nuclear energy? Why is it the cleanest energy mankind has ever produced? And most importantly, why is it so feared? Stay with us and you'll understand. It all started in the 1940s. After the shock and the horror of the war, nuclear energy promised to be a peaceful spin-off of the new technology helping the world get back on its feet. Would electricity become free? Would nuclear energy help save the Antarctic? Just a few years later, there was a sort of nuclear age hangover, cause it turned out. Nuclear power was very complicated and very expensive. Turning physics into engineering was easy on paper, but hard in real life. Also, private companies thought that nuclear power was far too risky as an investment. Most of them much more rather stick with gas, coal, and oil. But there was many people who just didn't want to abandon the promise of the atomic age, an exciting new technology, the prospect of enormously cheap electricity, the prospect of being independent of gas and oil, and in some cases, a secret desire to possess atomic weapons provided strong motivation to keep going.
Nuclear energy's finest hour finally came with the early 1970s, when the war in the Middle East caused oil prices to skyrocket worldwide. More than half the nuclear reactors in the world were built between 1970 and 1985. But what kind of nuclear reactor to build? Even though there weren't many types to choose from, a surprising underdog candidate won the day: the light water reactor. It wasn't very innovative and it wasn't too popular with scientists, but it had some decisive advantages. It was there, it worked, and it wasn't terribly expensive to build. But what does a light water reactor do? Well, the basic principle is shockingly simple. It heats up water using an artificial chain reaction. Nuclear fission releases several million times more energy than any chemical reaction could. So really heavy elements on the brink of stability like uranium-235 get bombarded with neutrons. These neutrons are absorbed, but the result is unstable, so most of the time this heavy element immediately splits into fast-moving lighter elements and some additional few neutrons. So energy in the form of radiation, and the radiation heats the surrounding water, while the neutrons that got released repeat the process with other atoms, releasing more radiation and heat in a closely controlled chain reaction.
heated water that evaporates to move a turbine, which in turn generates electricity. The light water reactor became prevalent because it's simple and cheap. Despite of the benefits of this kind of energy, there's a dangerous side of this, the nuclear weaponry power. There are plenty of stations around the world. However, there is a danger that more nuclear power stations in the world could mean more nuclear weapons. Because countries like the UK are promoting the expansion of nuclear power, other countries are beginning to plan for their own nuclear power programs too. But there is always the danger that countries acquire nuclear power technology may subvert its use to develop a nuclear weapons program. After all, the UK's first nuclear power stations were built primarily to provide fissile material for nuclear weapons during the Cold War. Nuclear materials may also get into the wrong hands and be used to make a crude nuclear device, or a so-called dirty bomb.
The UN has been trying to conciliate an agreement between the countries that own nuclear power. However, countries such as the UK, Russia, and USA are undisposed to reduce their power. Many nations of the world have lied numerous times about the presence of nuclear power in their countries, such as India and Israel. However, while there is no proof of the weaponry, no organization is able to take actions to reduce the power of these nations.
The nuclear energy is able to provide a new form of living to all mankind. However, the implications, such as potential disastrous events, such as the one in Kiev, had shown that this is a reality that we can't take easy. Also, this energy mainly subsides from plutonium, an element that, as all, is not eternal, and a potential war could take place in the worst of the scenarios. In conclusion, the nuclear energy opens new horizons to mankind and to keep developing new technologies in pro of the environment, which is one of today's bigger problems. However, this kind of energy is dangerous and may have affectations on how we conceive life, and may change for good or for bad. But that will be up to the next generations to come, to provide alternatives of energy, safe, durable, and ecologically beneficial for the earth and mankind both.